Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 365 of Screw the Commute podcast. I'm here with John Vuong, and he says he's had too many jobs to even count. But he found his calling. He's got a local SEO company he's going to tell you about, and I've never specialized in that at all. As long as I've been doing this, I always farmed out that work if it was a local deal. And of course, I always try to talk him into making ebooks and sell things globally. But if you need local customers, then you want to listen up to this episode. All right, make sure you get a copy of our free automation book we give you for listening to the show. It's called How to Automate Your Business, and it's at screwthecommute.com/automate free. Screwthecommute.com/automate free. It saved me millions of keystrokes and just makes me lightning fast taking care of things, saves me enormous amounts of work. We have cell phone tips and all kinds of tips for your computer to really save you a lot of work. So that's at screwthecommute.com/automate free. While you're over there, take a copy of our podcast app, and you can put it on your cell phone and tablet and do all kinds of cool things with it. Like if the phone rings, it'll pause the podcast. You can talk on the phone. As soon as you hang up, the podcast starts right up where it was. So just lots of stuff like that. And you can save your favorite episodes. And we have complete instructions, video, and screen capture so you can learn how to use it. All right. Now, I know everybody's still freaking out with the pandemic, and I'm certainly cognizant of the pain and suffering that's been going on all over the world because of it. But it's not been as bad for myself and my students because we know how to sell online. I've been preaching this for 20 years, but it couldn't be any more prevalent now than it is with this pandemic and lockdowns, and you never know if it's locked down, and today it is and tomorrow it isn't, and vice versa. So I don't like that kind of chaos. So I've been sitting here the whole time. I get people calling me who've known me for 20 years and say, hey, Tom, are you okay? You doing all right in this pandemic? And I'm like, what? What do you mean? I've been sitting here the whole time anyway. So that's what I want for you. And I've been teaching this over 22 years, hit multimillionaire status 20 years ago, and formalized the training. There were so many scammers out there. I said, I'm going to set myself apart. So I went through 3 years of living hell to get the license for my school. It's the only licensed dedicated internet marketing school in the country, probably the world. It's a distance learning school. It's certified to operate by SHEV, the State Council on Higher Education in Virginia. But you don't have to be in Virginia because it's true, good quality distance learning. So we have students making $6,000 a month as a side hustle after their parents spend a fortune on their regular college. Then they got into my school and then started making money right away. So it's at imtcva.org. And a little later, I'll tell you how you can get a scholarship to the school that you can either use or gift to someone if you are in my mentor program. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. All right, let's get to the main event. John Vuong is the owner and founder of Local SEO Search. It's a boutique agency that helps small businesses dominate their local market on Google. And John focuses really on more than just ranking online. He really tries to help his clients grow and succeed. John, are you ready to screw?
Yes, I am, Tom.
Good to talk to you again. I was on John's podcast. He has Local SEO Today, I think it's called, and we had a good time there. And I said, this is a perfect guy to have on Screw the Commute. So tell him a little bit about what you're doing now, and then we'll take you back and see how you got here.
Yeah, definitely. 7 years ago, I started this agency. It's called Local SEO Search, and we specialize in small, medium-sized businesses, helping them transform their business to become more visible on search, primarily Google, and dominate their niche, right? Become experts, thought leaders, authoritative figures in their domain. And really, that's what we've been doing the last 7 years.
Yeah, and I said I never concentrated on local search. It's a different animal than national or international search. And when I did have clients that had local business, I would talk them into writing ebooks and teaching what they do around the world. But if you want clients, it's a different thing. Tell them some of the differences and some of the tricks of the trade to get local customers.
Yeah, so local is a little bit different, right, than international
Right.
because majority of the people are online doing searches, but majority of the traffic that actually translate to a transaction are the ones that you do on a regular basis. You shop at your local restaurant, you shop at your grocery store, your coffee shop, your local dental provider, your chiropractor, your physiotherapist. These are all localized search results. And typically these are keyword driven, intended keywords, but also focus on a locale, community, a street corner. And that's how majority of the traffic resides today. When if you think about it, Google is understanding this more than ever, and that's why they are tracking your behavior, right, from mobile smartphones to desktop, understanding your cache history, cookies, and then they're translating it to the map search results, right, on Google.
Yeah, when you say cache, tell everybody what you mean by that.
So what's happening is Google's
We're not
storing
talking
all,
about money here, folks.
no, they're storing your history, right? They're
Right.
storing your behavior of what you're searching for, up to 30 days. And the more information, more intel that they have, the more catered results you're gonna get, based on your search history, your behaviors, which sites you tend to reside more on, right? And that's why it's important to understand what Google's after, which is primarily ads, where they serve up different ad spots so that you can, generate some leads at the top of search results page. But ultimately, as a business owner, if you don't click on the ads, and majority of their customers don't click on ads, where do they go? They click on the map, the 3-pack, or below the map, right? And that's where I would say 60, 70, 80% of the traffic resides. So that's what we help business owners achieve, right? Visibility on search on the first page without paying for ads.
Tell them what the 3-pack is. And it used to be a 7-pack and it was a 10-pack and it was like, I don't think it was ever a 6-pack like your abs, but tell them what that is.
Yeah, definitely. So the Google 3-pack is really, if you're on a mobile device, it's becoming much more important because it's prime real estate, right? People want to shop local. And usually, depending on the category that you search under, say, for instance, restaurants, and there's hundreds of restaurants in a large city, you're going to have restaurants within a couple hundred meters radius, right? Because it's going to pick up the signal where the cell tower is. And it's really based on relevancy and proximity to where you are. So there's different ways to search, but ultimately what Google's after is providing the best user intent with the search query that you're after. And there's ways to outrank your competitor and also appear more frequently and often for different search queries, so that you, as a business owner, can capitalize and optimize for the users that potential prospects or customers of yours.
Yeah, and I've always said about Google since the beginning, Google is kind of like the Wizard of Oz. It like knows all, sees all. And that's why you're getting these things when you start to type a search. Like I typed in junkyard and immediately it said near me in the results because it knew where I was and it knew I wanted to go to a junkyard. Right? So they just knew. And then they gave me the results that made the best sense for me.
Yeah, and these are auto suggest keywords, right? Google has a lot of volume. They have a lot of traffic, a lot of queries. A lot of people are searching. And for myself, I'm I guess a high heavy user of Google. So I maybe use Google 20 times a day. And every time
That's all? Probably more than that.
But every time I search, if I don't find the result that I'm looking for, I'm going to rewrite the search term with more refined query. And it's going to be longer tail, right? Than the broad term junkyard near me, right? Well, it might be looking for a specific scrap metal part for my car hood.
Yeah, I was looking for a used 20-inch wheel for Suburban 2013.
Exactly.
So that's long tail. See, folks, for the search. Junkyard is like a regular. Long tail was all that detail in it.
Exactly. So there's a difference with the user intent. When you're going after a broad term, which a lot of business owners want to dominate for instance, a dentist in New York, every dentist wants to be appearing for that term, right? However, their customers, the users, the clients are not typing just dentist. They're typing in, I'm looking for a root canal at the corner of 47th and
Right.
8th Street. You know what I mean? Like very specific. And I'm looking for a root canal for my 5-year-old son, for instance, right? Or say your specific case and scenario. So you have to answer the queries of what you believe your customers are actually searching for. And that's where user intent comes into play when it comes to not just optimizing your website for search, but understanding how you can position yourself as a leader in your market.
Yeah, and that's what you help people with, right?
That's correct.
Yes. Yeah, and then one thing that people have to, newbies do this all the time. They, their name is Joseph Kozolinsky, and they said, "Oh, I come up first in Google for Joseph Kozolinsky." Like, oh, is that right? Well, I wonder how many people are typing Joseph Kozolinsky. And then you said something earlier about caching. And see, the thing is people think, oh, my site's doing great because they type it in 100 times a day looking at it. And Google is going to give you what you, just as you said, what you're used to typing and what you want. And so they think everybody in the country or the world sees their site come up really high when they're the only ones.
Exactly. I think you nailed it on the head at the beginning where you mentioned people know you with your exact match domain name or your name branded. Right. It's very similar to before Google, before digital marketing existed. It's like you build a store, a storefront, and you put a sign out there and they're all going to flock to your business. Well, that doesn't happen, right? As you know,
right.
In traditional businesses, you still need to market yourself. You need to bring awareness. You need to get out there and let people know what you're all about. They don't know who you are, right? So it's the same thing digitally. You build a website, you launch it on, search engines so that it can be indexed and crawled. You put it on all these different social pages and whatnot, create different asset pieces. The challenge is, how do you bring awareness to all the products and services that you offer? Because there's millions, if not billions of websites out there competing with what product and service you offer, right? So what makes you different? How do you set yourself apart? And that's where SEO comes into play, because we as, an agency, we understand where there's opportunity. We understand what your competitors are doing. We know how to really outrank your competitors so that you can actually become more visible, have it be an option so that you can potentially win them over, right? Because if you're not even there visible, you have no chance to win them over.
Yeah, and here's a $1 million lesson that I learned, folks, and I'm talking an actual $1 million out of my pocket. Okay, so with knowing what John knows, if you're a local business, you can locate yourself in a cheaper area. I paid $1 million extra in rent. This is because I didn't know any better. This was 12 years ago. Being on a highway that I thought the sign is going to have 40,000 cars going by a day and is going to bring just people flocking in the door. We did not get one student, and this was my school, by the way. We did not get one student from that traffic on the highway. Okay, not one. We had a couple drunks slobber in a couple days that were lost, but I could have rented a school building in a much cheaper area, way, I mean, less than a third it would have cost me, and then used local search, all that money to put in, not even all of it, a part of it into a local search, somebody like John, or have John do it. He could do it anywhere, really. And then saved all that money and still and gotten more traffic out of it. So if you're local, you do what John tells you, and you could save an enormous amount of money on rent.
And that's the problem. A lot of business owners come into this new entrepreneurial journey where they believe they invest a lot of money on bricks and mortar storefront renovation, make it look pretty inside, put huge signage. They have real estate, right?
I made all those mistakes. Yeah.
Right. And then they forget to allocate budget for actual amplification, exposure, marketing, advertising to get awareness out there, right? So they invested all their money, are debt ridden by the time they start really opening up, grand opening, and no one's going to show up, right? I would advise the opposite, because without customers paying you for your product and service, you're not going to survive long, right? And then this is where I find, like, as an entrepreneur, I talk to a lot of business owners and they just don't get it, right? Because they feel like in school, this is what you were taught.
Yeah, and usually by professors, that the definition of a professor is somebody that can talk about but can't do.
Exactly. And, real life example is, when was the last time a business owner actually went to business school to run a business, right? And be successful? I'd rather have someone with real life experience. Maybe it is mentors, coaches, people that actually failed a couple of times running businesses, see what they did, and then do exactly what they did, right? Like, real life will always supersede anyone that school taught, right?
Exactly. And you'll learn what you need to learn, rather than be forced to learn things you don't need to learn, right? Now my school is different because it comes from a guy like me who's been through all the hard knocks, and I only give you the stuff you need. You don't have to take art history to make a fortune online. Okay, so
exactly. Someone that's tried, tested, and true, that lived it with real experience, is leaps so far ahead than someone that's school taught with a PhD that only lived in the scholar educator world, right? Like university.
I actually bought the website recently called Highly Educated Idiots. Because some of these people, the things that they do are just ridiculous to an entrepreneur. Okay, cool. So let's take you back a little bit to your biggest expertise, John. From what I understand, is that you can man a fryer at a football stadium and make great stuff. So you had lots of jobs, right, coming up. Tell us about how you came up. I know your family is from Vietnam, and you worked hard from a little kid, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was born in a small town outside of Toronto, Canada. So I'm Canadian, an hour outside of Toronto in a city called Hamilton. My parents left the Vietnam War, and we arrived here. I was the fourth child of immigrants' family, and for us, that's survival, right? We take care of each other. We didn't have much growing up. We scraped and we ensured that we had meals together. We had food, we had shelter. So during when I was growing up, I was a newspaper boy. That was my first job. And then I probably had like dozens of jobs up until finishing high school, right? Before I started college, university. So everything from landscaping to bookkeeping to, fast food, to factory jobs, to odd jobs, you name it, I probably did it. I probably worked at all the major landmarks in Hamilton, because it's a fairly smaller city than Toronto. But I enjoyed it, right? Because it was more about like curiosity. I wanted to find my mode in terms of like what I really wanted to do
And
with
you're
my
big
life.
on relationships too.
Exactly. And I feel I found that from what my upbringing was, right? Not only was I a hard worker, I really focused on family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being surrounded by my parents, my siblings, and we're having dinner together. And that's all we knew, right? We didn't have birthday parties. We didn't go for sleepovers or any travel events, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that was just not a part of our upbringing. So we just had each other. And over the, during college, university time, as well as like when I first started my working career, it was all about like harvesting real trusted relationships that made me really want to uncover, I had a lot of like curiosity, right? Where like I was very, very interested in people's lives because I felt I was missing a huge gap or a huge component of my life, from travel to buying stuff at will without, being able to, having a car, like stuff that now you would think people would take for granted, right?
Right.
Um, but at that time, for me, I didn't know better because that's all I knew, right? Like we were surviving. We were really just taking care of one another, right? And making sure we had food on the table and, a place to live, right?
Yeah. Wow. And you studied in England for a while, right?
Yeah. So, university, college, I studied business finance. And I did 1 year exchange program in a city called Lancaster University out in the Lake District, so northern part of England. And that was my first foray of going abroad, traveling, flying, living on my own, meeting new cultures, new people. Um, just, it was a great experience, right? And that really motivated me to become more of a world traveler, right? Like I was always, after that experience, I was hooked, right? I was like, I need to now venture off to different countries, different cultures, love the different foods, love the different people, and very curious on how they lived, right? And wondered more about like what their upbringing was, wanting to help and support and understand how people just survived, right? Because I felt I had my own story, but everyone else had their own as well, right? So I was always curious.
Yeah, and I was just thinking when you were talking about people take a car for granted of this this story of this Asian person came over and saw a bike rack on the back of a car, and he said, "If you have a bicycle, why would you need a car?" So,
Exactly, right?
yeah,
So when you're in a different culture, that's all you know and see, right?
right, right. Now, what cracked me up, I was looking at your bio, you work for the red pages instead of the yellow pages, right?
Yeah, that was my first job actually. So I finished school, I got my business
Or first
finance
more
degree.
paycheck kind of job, not, paper route
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, this was my first career type job, right?
Right.
9 to 5, finished my university college degree. And it was a role in sales and marketing, right? Sales, advertising,
Mm-hmm.
sales, traditional media. And Red Pages was a knockoff of the Yellow Pages, but it was a great concept and idea. It was before Google really took off. It was a printed directory of all websites delivered to all businesses, homes, and storefronts for free, just like the Yellow Pages, but it was only websites instead of telephone numbers.
Do you still have a copy of one of those laying around?
Yes, of
Yeah,
course I do.
I think you should take a picture and let's put it in the show notes because I kind of remember that happening, but I don't have one or I don't remember it specifically. But yeah, I'd love to see one of those.
Yeah, the reason why I thought it was gonna take off was at that time, the internet wasn't as fast as it is today, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
dial-up.
Right,
Computers took 5 minutes to boot up
right.
because it was Pentium 2s.
Mm-hmm.
A web browser, even email took a couple minutes to load, right? Browsers, which is a lot of people didn't even have websites that were fast loading, right? Like
Oh
right
yeah,
now,
that was not even a thought at those days. In those days.
yeah, people just wanted a website to say, I have something digital out there, right? But they didn't understand the convenience factor.
And
And
you're talking around 2003, right?
exactly. And that's
But see,
17
but
years
here's
ago.
the go, John. I started in 1994. So if the slowness that you're talking about now, uh, divide it by 10 for 1994.
Exactly, right? So at 94 versus '03, things were still really in the
Yeah.
infant stages,
There was no
right?
blogging. There was no Facebook. There was none of this stuff.
And they were simple HTML website or JavaScript
Mm-hmm.
websites. And it didn't have, like right now, speed is so fast, right? 4G, 5G, internet speeds of a terabyte at home,
Mm-hmm.
like all these things, people take it for granted, right? But when we were starting off my career, it was more like I thought it was a great concept. So I was out there selling. I learned as much as I can about sales, right? I was not watching, but listening on audio tapes because I didn't have a laptop at that time. It was more about listening to audio from Zig Ziglar's, Brian Tracy's, Tony Robbins, and all the ones that helped me, guide me to be a better salesperson. Right?
Yeah, and what cracks me up is, because I like to talk about how people transition from their work to their business now. And I know, Yellow Pages and Red Pages all faded away by the time you left. But what cracked me up, when people say, well, I can't start a business. I don't have this. I don't have that. So what cracks me up is, people saying all the time they can't do this because they don't have this and that and the other. But you didn't even have a laptop when you got your first customer, right?
Yeah, and when I started the business, I
Yeah.
mean, I I was bootstrapping everything. I wanted to make sure that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make sure that I know how to sell this. I'm going to be owning it. And before I start investing into any technology or any equipment, I got to make sure that I'm a true believer and there's people that are willing to pay for my
Yeah,
product
that's
and
so
service.
so good an idea. Now, were you already out of your job at that point, or were you still at the job?
Yeah, so Red Pages was my first job. I worked in a couple other companies, and the longest foray before I started my own agency was working at the Yellow Pages. So I was
Okay. Oh,
there.
so you did make it to the Yellow Pages. All
I
right.
did because they were still the dominant player,
Right.
and they had the largest book of business. They had good client relationships and a good training sales environment as well. So
Okay, but what I liked about this is that if you remember the what they call the dot-com bust or bubble, people were throwing millions of dollars at young kids to these startups, and then they all just spent it on pool tables and having fun, and they all went under. So you did it the right way. You you kept your costs low and made sure the concept was working, made sure people would give you money before you invested, right?
yeah, and I think I learned this from just meeting with so many business owners, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
over the years working at Yellow Pages, I met with thousands of small, medium-sized business
What a
owners.
great experience. Yeah.
And I felt like that was more 1 hour mentor sessions for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was going on like if I had 4 to 5 meetings a day, I got to really connect with real business owners that understood how to take care of the customers, what was important to them, family, community, relationships, understanding their products inside out, their competitive analysis, unique selling proposition, how they differentiate it, like all that stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
core foundational business stuff, right? And I just
You were
enjoyed
getting
that.
paid to do it too.
Yeah, and I was so curious, right? So
Mm-hmm.
every meeting was all about fact finding. I was asking questions, and they were all telling me everything about their whole life, right? Because
Yeah.
again, I was absorbing it all, and then come when it was time for me to start my own thing, I I s- I noticed that Yellow Pages was kind of going under or just not as prevalent, right? Like a lot of people were just
They just
frustrated.
weren't needed as much. And the payback from the ads, who goes to the Yellow Pages anymore, you know?
Exactly. So at that time, it was like people were spending more than ever. They were getting less in return. Users were now pivoting away from traditional media, moving to this new digital age, with smartphones, with Google, with social media. All that was starting to take off. And for me, I just wanted to just be in play, with a product or service that was more in need, and I pivoted.
But were you still employed when you got your first customer, or
No.
you were
So
done with Yellow Pages, right?
yeah, so I left because it was non-compete.
How long was it until you got your first customer?
So actually, I was transitioning for a couple months because I didn't know if I wanted to start a business or I wanted to work at
I
another
see.
company, right? In sales. So I was applying, and fortunately, or not fortunately, I was just in a different space, right? Where I just got married, I moved to a new city, and I was kind of looking to see where my next move would be, either work for somewhere else or start my own thing. And I had my full support from my wife and she had a stable income. She basically gave me the go ahead to
Nice.
try something, right? And give it all. And she knew I was more like gung ho about like just helping and doing something different. And so that's what I did.
Beautiful. All right, we got to take a brief sponsor break. When we come back, we'll see what a typical day looks like for John. I know he shuts things down because he's got a 4-year-old kid that needs him, and he's all about family. So he's created a lifestyle business for himself. So folks, about 20 years ago, or it's been about 22 years ago, I kind of turned the internet marketing world on its head, in that guys like me were charging $50,000 or $100,000 up front. Women too, not as many, but to teach this stuff. And I knew a lot of these people. Half of them were ripoffs that'd never teach you if you did give them the money. So I said, that's not right. I'm a small business advocate. So I said, I'm going to charge just an entry fee and then tie my success to their success. So for me to get my $50,000, you have to make $200,000. Well, people just love this, and 1,700 plus students later, it's still going strong. And I call it, and then nobody else has challenged me ever on this, is that it's the most unique, most successful, longest running mentor program of its kind in the internet marketing field ever. And I even triple dog dare people to bring another program and put it feature for feature next to mine and see what happens. And nobody has the guts to do it, because you have an immersion weekend here at the retreat center where you actually live in the big estate home with me. We have our own TV studio where we shoot high definition videos for you, edit them, put the graphics on, give you finished products. Some of those go for $700 to $1,500 for just one. And we've never had anybody get out of here with less than 10. And we had one couple do 53 of them. Right? So that's alone is unique. Then it's one-on-one. We don't do any group coaching except when you're here at the retreat center, and it's only about 5 people. It's one-on-one because if I'm talking to an advanced person, the beginners are lost. And if I'm talking to a beginner, the advanced people are bored. So that's not efficient, and that's no way for me to get my $50,000 or for them to get their $200,000. So we do one-on-one, myself and my entire staff. We'll make appointments with you. We'll take over your screen, show you where to click. I mean, you get total attention from us. And then you get a scholarship to my school. If you're in my mentor program, you get a scholarship to my school, which you can either use yourself for extra structured training or gift it to someone. And that's where the guy, he had spent $80,000 on his daughter's crappy education, and she's working some pitiful job. And so he joins the mentor program, gifts the school to his daughter, and after 4 months, she was up to $6,000 a month as a side hustle. So, and this, we even had her create an elective for the school to teach the new students how she did it. And it's very, very easy when you see how it's done, especially with the high demand for this skill. I mean, every business on earth needs shopping carts and blogs and text marketing and chat bots and all the things, the email marketing, all the things that we do, and it's all nuts and bolts. So Check the mentor program out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. And then all the stuff that we have, including John's great stuff, will be in the show notes. All right, let's get back to the main event. John Vuong is here. He is the chief cook and fryer operator at local SEO today. And he's a great guy out of Toronto, Canada, but I'm sure he services all over lots of places, UK and the US and all that. So John, what's a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, so right now, like you mentioned, I'm now a lifestyle kind of business, right? Where I focus on the 9 to 5, but prior to the 9 o'clock day, I would wake up at 5. I would do my, I guess, Robin Sharma or Ziva meditation, which is all about, gratitude, meditate, just stay present and live a very enjoyable life. And then I would read. I would actually spend some time not worrying about the day, but really learning, educating myself on where I need to improve before I have a healthy breakfast with my son. And I would then get on with the actual day. So at 9 o'clock, I would start with my meetings. I have a full schedule, usually booked, solid of things to do, tasks to be completed in meetings with a lot of customers.
Now, where's your son during this, during your 9 to 5?
He's in school.
He's in school. Okay.
So yeah, so he's in school right now, and it's been great because I can actually work because that earlier this year during this pandemic, it was the hardest thing to have a young child at home while trying to work.
Really. And your wife's working too, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So both of us are home based, but he's very demanding, right? Like he doesn't see us as teachers, he sees us as parents, and parents mean play. And therefore, when we're both at home, he expects full attention, and it was challenging. But now,
well,
he's at
that's
school.
all right. Pretty soon he'll be handling customers for you.
Well, not anytime soon. But it's all about like just having a good balance, right? And what I find is being present. So making sure that you work hard when you need to work, but when you're done work, you turn everything off and really focus on what's most important. Why are you doing what you're doing? It's to spend more time with the people that you love, form great relationships, and do things that really you enjoy doing, right? I love my business. I love my clients. I love my staff, but I would say I love my wife and son more.
Oh, that's good to say, especially in front of thousands of people on this podcast. Yeah. So that's great. You have a lifestyle business, take care of your family, and that's what you came from, was a family that depended on each other. So I can see that. I'm more fanatic because I didn't really like my family that much, other than my dad. So I'm day and night, this is all I do basically, other than, my hobbies. The point is you can make this however you want, with being able to sell from home, right?
Exactly. And 7 years ago, I started this agency, really just focus on providing good value, taking care of my clients, but also all my staff, all my clients understood that we're all remote, we're all home-based. Even at Yellow Pages at the time, we worked in the office for a couple of years, and then we transitioned to home base. So I was getting used to, that whole meeting online, working from home, the setup, everything was already slowly ingrained in my habits. And it just had to expedite when I started my agency. And really, it's been a lifesaver during this pandemic because I have a lot more experience than someone that just started the last couple months. And I've been doing this for many, many years. So I actually do workshops and webinars on how to set up your home-based office, right? Because I actually have real life experience doing it. So stuff like that, it really fast tracks a lot of what we've done. And it's more important than ever to have a digital presence if you're a business owner. And if you haven't really looked at it, really consider it, because more and more people are absorbed in front of a computer, spending more time on their smartphone devices, navigating, searching, because they don't want to be in a store. They don't want to go out, right? They'd rather do everything at their fingertips, doing their own research, understanding how, to monetize and optimize. All this is very important, right? As a business owner. So SEO is really a core foundation of advertising online. And there's so many different ways to advertise, from email to social to video to podcast to online courses to Eventbrite meetings, communities. There's so much out there. But when it comes to search, there's always going to be search engines like Google, and the type of buyer who goes to search engines are very qualified. It's user intent focused, and they're very far down the line of the buying cycle where they're ready.
Their wallet's out. They're ready to go.
Very similar to Yellow Pages. When someone picked up that phone book 20 years ago or 30 years ago, they knew they needed a plumber. Mm-hmm. They knew they needed a dentist, window repair, or whatever it was. Same as when someone goes to Google now. Someone who's typing in a keyword, that intent is there. So you want to at least be an option for that customer.
Beautiful. So tell everybody how they get a hold of you.
So you can check out my website. It's www.localseosearch.ca. The reason it's .ca is because we're originally operated in Canada. We also own the .com. We also have a podcast called Local SEO Today, and it's really the education process and informative process of how to start a business, because me and my VP work with thousands of business owners at Yellow Pages. He was there for over 30 years, and I was there for over 5 years.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
So we collectively work with over 10,000 business owners, real localized business owners. And that's what we bring to the table that's different than a lot of different SEO companies. And we really focus on long-term relationships, because without that, SEO campaigns will not derive a really good result end-wise for customers. So we really focus on harvesting good customers with long-term relationships that derive the best return on your investment for your advertising dollars.
Awesome. Tell them the website again, and we'll have it in the show notes.
www.localseosearch.ca.
All right. So thanks so much, John, for coming on. Glad to cross paths with you. And I was on his podcast. I don't know if it went live yet or not, but make sure you check it out. Get subscribed to his podcast, and there you go. So thanks a lot, buddy, and we will catch everybody on the next episode. See you later.
Thanks a lot, Tom. See ya.